Hello, everyone, and welcome to Answer the Call. This week's topic is pretty current. We had a Calling All Devs on Death of a Spaceman. So, this was a post that was made in 2013 to explain that your character can die. There will be permanent death in Star Citizen for your character. So, yeah, we haven't heard anything about this since 2013, basically. I think there was a little Todd Peppy update maybe sometime last year of, yes, we're still doing Death of a Spaceman. That was like it. But what we got this week was a Calling All Devs to get a little bit more detail on it, although not too much has changed. So quickly, my opinions on it are everything that was shared in this video makes perfect sense to me. I have zero issues with anything. Apparently, the community is like polarized by the fact that our character will be cloned. I don't know what game these people think they're playing, but like in MMOs, when your character dies, you respawn somewhere typically, and you get a new body. And then you go back to your old body and you loot it, hopefully, and then go about your day. How do they gamify that or make it as realistic as possible without using something like cloning? Like, come up with a better idea. What are you going to be, a ghost that gets rezzed? It's the same thing. Another magical body appears. It just makes sense to me. Personally, I like the idea of permadeath in the game eventually. I think the design idea of Death of a Spaceman, which is you create a character at the beginning of the game, but you also create your next of kin, and all of your parts of your items and reputation will be carried down to your next of kin when your character dies. Your character can die many times, but after a certain point, you can no longer do it. They explained in the video that basically your genes will fracture a little bit, or your DNA will fracture a little bit, and then for each respawn, basically. And eventually, they won't be able to respawn your character anymore. I like the idea. I like the lore behind it. I think it all makes great sense, because I think we do... in any MMO that I've played, you dress your character, you get certain cool armor, you take screenshots with your character, you actually have this relationship with your character. And if that relationship can get taken away, every death has meaning. So I like the idea of it. I like the design of it. That's where I stand. I want to hear what you guys think. That's what the show is all about. If you are new to Answer the Call, it's a podcast where I'm here, but very often every other podcast in Star Citizen will tend to have, let's bring on other content creators and personalities and see what they think. Well, we're the majority, or the minority, excuse me, of the Star Citizen community, the content creators, right? The majority is like the regular Joe Schmo that just wants to play a good game, and that's who we tend to bring on the shows here, is get normal people who don't have as much invested in Star Citizen to hear about what they think. So, without further ado, let's bring on our first caller, Dr. Introverticius. What's up, Doc? Doc, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I hear you. Are you ready for today's show?
Yeah,
All right, so what do you think?
I think it's excellent. The idea of having this permanent thing like happening is excellent. It has that real, like, sort of, it's associated between like you and the game, and that's what I like.
Yeah. I mean, the do you like, okay, why do you think the community is so hell-bent on being upset about the cloning thing?
I actually have no,
You're a real doctor, right?
no, no.
You must know about this stuff.
I get that one a lot, but no, I don't have any idea. It's the same as any other like MMO, any other game. Like you die, so I don't know what's happening. with the people these days.
I think no matter what comes out, they just want to find something to be upset about.
Yeah, that's
Um,
what I
yeah,
see a
like
lot.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe they feel like it's not realistic, but like cloning happens in real life nowadays. Like 1,000 years in the future, it seems possible at the very least.
It's, yeah, but I don't know. It seems excellent. Like the idea of it. Yeah, I just don't know what to say, but it's enjoyable. I think it'll be fun to do,
Yeah, I mean,
and you'll have to think.
I don't think it'll be fun to die, but I
Well, it
think the
won't die.
heart pounding stuff,
Yeah,
those situations will matter obviously, and every update that they gave about where they are and what they plan on working on now, and that okay, we're gonna work on this, then we're gonna work on that, and everything's gonna gradually come together. I'm okay with it. I'm even okay with it in the sense, like Chris said, 1 to 2 years. What did you think about that?
I thought it was all right. You
I
know,
mean, I think it probably means 4 or 5 now, which is
yeah,
scary. But,
yeah, but
because his estimates are always trash.
half. Uh, if, like even if it takes two, it's fine. You know, it's interesting system to have to do. You know, and it'll take time,
Yeah,
and
I
I just
mean,
want to see it work well.
yeah, and I think we'll obviously see it how they said too, is that it'll
Mm.
come gradually in pieces where I think the most exciting thing is that I think we could probably expect a downed state instead of a death relatively soon.
Yeah,
And
that's,
then you could choose whether or not to kill your
die.
character off
Yeah,
or wait for somebody to um, revive you. So I think that's pretty cool. I don't think the
yeah, that's
consequences will necessarily be there, but
yeah. The idea of going, hey, like I need help now, instead of just going, oh well, I'll die. You know, that's exciting. You know, like having friends like in the verse to help you.
yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, I don't know. It, did anything give you any concerns? I think my only concern is that they can possibly monetize the gene fracturing thing or the DNA fracturing, where you could
Yeah,
possibly purchase more respawns.
that's a
That's
concern. I don't want that in the game. I don't think that would
yeah.
be
I would
good.
say I like for me it's like this is one thing that I would ask them please. Like I want them to be a
You
profitable
just
business. I want them to keep developing, but
yeah,
please don't monetize anything to do with
for the
this.
love of God, just don't touch
Yeah.
the things with that. Because you almost like take away from that almost.
You I can't imagine like if they do it totally contradicts everything they said in the video. What like
Yeah,
they started the video out saying, "Hey, um, we want your death to have meaning," and the second you monetize away
and then they
your
said
death
that
having meaning,
that
it
doesn't
would
have the meaning.
yeah, but it's Star Citizen, so it's
Yeah,
like you sit there and you go, will they do it? They could do it. So like I feel like no matter what, I have to express that out there, and I think you do too. Is
yeah,
that please stay away from this when it comes to monetization. Stick to your ships. Um, stick to cosmetics, please, but don't touch the the meaning, the meaningfulness of death in the game.
yeah,
Because that was actually one of the bigger selling points for me when I first got interested
yeah.
in the project.
That was the thing for he as well.
Yeah,
The idea of this being a thing.
for sure. But we will never know
Yeah,
until they
until it happens.
yeah,
And
until it happens. So we'll have to see. But yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else before we let you go, Doc?
the Aegis HUD, I thought that
Oh,
was
that's
in.
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you just
So,
said.
yeah, I didn't say it at the beginning, but I told everybody before we started that one of the things that I also wanted to touch on today was there was a UI update where they showed new manufacturer HUDs, but they also basically gave the general layout of your ship HUD a pretty big update, and I personally am not a fan. I think it's way too busy. So, what did you think, Doc?
Yeah, it's the same. It's just a bit too full. There's this far too much info on the screen to read.
I trying to aim with that on the screen. I don't know
Oh,
if I
that
could
would be
do it.
awful.
Yeah,
That would be like you have all this information, like your thrusters and your fuel and your EMs and your. Just, how? I don't see how that would work.
yeah. If you use the Gladius, there's some thought that
Yeah, you can. Yeah,
you could turn them off,
yeah, you could turn it
so
off.
that we might have a little bit more customizability with this. So our concerns might be valid, but then not as big of a deal as we might think it is. You know, I hope.
Yeah,
I hope we have a little bit of
customizability of
yeah.
options.
It'd be nice to be able to move things
Yeah,
into certain boxes. To be honest, so
yeah,
I'd like that. But yeah, all right, man.
yeah,
I
yeah,
guess we'll let you go then, Doc.
yeah.
Thanks for coming on. And did you escape prison yet?
Yeah, I escaped prison.
Okay. Me and Doc got stuck in prison yesterday.
It was rough.
It was rough. But all right, Doc, I'm going to let you go. We're going to bring on the next caller, man. Thank you so
Yep.
much for calling in, as always. I appreciate it.
I'll see you around.
Later, bud. All right, and our next caller is Masocast. Maso, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Well, up
Awesome.
really early on a Sunday as usual.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't
yeah,
know.
give it to me.
I guess. Oh, say that again. Sorry, I think I walked on you.
No, it's okay. I was just gonna say, just give it to us. What do you think about this whole Death of a Spaceman update? I mean, it's pretty much what we already knew, but there's some new little tidbits in there.
Well, first of all, it was high time for an update. You know, because like they even pointed out, I think they even pointed it out in the video at one point that like there's a lot of people questioning whether or not it's even still going to be a thing as they kind of experience the game. So high time for an update for sure.
Yeah.
As far as people getting worked up over cloning, I just feel like that's I like you already pointed out. I think it's inevitable that somebody's going to have a problem with that from a conceptual level. But like for an actual gameplay, sure, why not? It makes perfect sense. The only problem I have with it is more from a lore standpoint. So it's not not really valid, I guess. And that is that, like, if you have the ability to clone brand new bodies for people, why do you still have old people? You know what I mean? Like, even if it's like, that the genes kind of fracture over time and whatever else, like, it's still, to me, like, you'd still be encountering people who are centuries old at that point, if
I mean, I
people were
think you can
dying from
glorify that. I think you can argue that one. I think you could like you kind of brush off the genes fracturing thing, but the risk there of I think how you would say it is that you wouldn't clone yourself for the only way you would do it is if the risk was worth the reward, and the only time that you would do it is because you died, not because you wanted to go back to being a younger version of yourself.
Okay, sure, fine, whatever. Okay, so but the second point remains in that, like, if that were the case, you'd have somebody, let's say they, from modern medicine, let's say people live like 150 years now, so you'd have that person go 150 years and die. Then they clone themselves and they live another 150 years. And then they die and they clone themselves and they live another 150 years. And maybe after that third time, maybe their genes are too fractured. Yeah. So they're dead. But that's still, like, that's what, like 300 to 450 years
Yeah,
old at that point. And
Craven Stranger says this in chat too, cloning laws. So they don't, like, you can't clone unless you pass away. But I think the that is sort of where the lore breaks a little bit, is, or more than a little bit probably, is the idea of that your body can last forever, essentially.
yeah.
Um,
Which honestly, I would
Yeah.
be cool with. I think too many science fiction franchises don't really deal with, like, Star Trek was notorious for this. You know, people
Yeah.
are still dying of old age and stuff, and you're like, why? You guys can literally fabricate matter from energy, and you're telling me you haven't cracked life extension yet? Come on, you know. So I hope they take it and run with it, basically, from a lore perspective. And I hope you do start encountering people who are really old in the universe, because I think that's just a cool concept. But as far as gameplay goes, I don't know. I think cloning's fine. Makes sense.
Yeah.
The kind of the concerns I have with it as far as gameplay goes, with just Death of a Spaceman in general, is that they really are going to have to nail making it fun. Like, dying isn't fun any way you slice it. Okay,
I think that's
fair
the
enough.
point.
But and yes, for risk and reward, etc. But I'd basically, I could very easily see them. Okay, so let's use this as an example. Okay, so you are off doing your thing in the middle of nowhere. You die for whatever reason, and because the systems just don't work properly, or you're just too far away from everybody because space is huge. It means basically that you have to sit there. You have a choice: use up one of your lives, or wait fucking who knows how many hours for an NPC or a player to come get you. Um, and I get it. Like, you have to accept the risk when you're going into something like that. But I feel like if the time sink in a game that already takes a lot of time is too much, I think it could be, that permadeath thing, or the way that they imagine it anyways, could end up being just boring. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you're
And
looking at it in, like, this vacuum where permadeath equals gameplay.
yes,
And that's not the point of it. The point of it is that everything else you're doing gets heightened because this thing exists. This thing isn't supposed to be fun. It's supposed to heighten everything else that they make later that should be fun, hopefully. We'll see.
yes, but you're right. When you point out that it is this system depends on, like, there's a lot of background to it, and it's all interdependent, and that's all I'm saying. Like,
Okay.
I'm saying that if they don't get it right, it's not going to be fun. It's just going to suck.
How can they get it wrong?
Well, I think like I just pointed out, like, okay, ultimately, if you are dead or if you die in the middle of nowhere or need rescue or something like that, you would say generate a beacon, and that would use the Quanta system to, broadcast that mission out to either players or NPCs. But if the ratios are fucked up or something like that, in the Quanta system, and it's just not dialed in right, it's just, again, it's not going to foster a risk and reward gameplay. It's just going to be punishing for no reason. And that's the concern. I'm not saying it's going to end up like that. I'm just saying that's the one thing that makes me go cross my fingers and hope they get this right, because a mechanic like this can be really fun and can add a lot of intensity. And I hope it does, to be honest. I really do. But I could definitely see it, not being dialed in properly and just kind of breaking things.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, like, look at their look at
their
the track record so far. Yeah. And then the other concern there comes in with just how do I say this? I guess like, we've seen how unstable the game is right now, like, and they talk about how they are working on putting these mechanics in, like, soon. And I'm just going, like, fuck, how many times? It was the same problem I had with prisons being rolled out too. It's that they pushed prisons out, in my opinion, prematurely, and most of the things that send people to prison, especially initially, were bugs.
I have not rage quit this game in a long time, but I did in my prison escapades yesterday.
Yeah. Do prisons actually work yet? Honestly, I haven't played Star Citizen in a long time, but I remember I basically rage quit the one time where I was like, okay, so I'm in jail now because I blew up a pirate and it bugged. It gave me like 3 homicides because it was a constellation, and I went in and I self-destructed it. Which apparently, when you do that, gives you lots of homicide counts or anything, something like that. Anyways, so I go to jail, and it's like I can't even mine and put my minerals in the thing to reduce my time. So my options are try to break out and try to avoid some bounty hunter picking me off for an easy 20k, or log out. And yeah, that's frustrating. And with that sort of a track record, if they're planning on moving these Death of the Spaceman things in soon, that also makes me a little worried because the mechanics can work flawlessly, but if the game is unstable and
I mean, did you listen to what they said though? Like, this is one thing where I got to stop you is the things that they're putting in the game are a downstate and healing.
Oh, okay. I missed that part. All I heard was that they were planning on kind of driving these Death of a Spaceman mechanics in sooner rather than later.
Of course, sooner rather than later. But come on, we're talking about CIG here. What does that mean? That means 1 to 2 years, like Chris is saying. Like, this is nowhere near, because we need physical inventory. You need persistence. You need all the things that have been pushed back to eternity that we have no idea when they're going to be done for that aspect, the punishing aspect, to exist.
Okay,
so the
fair
first
enough,
things they're going to do are the choice of, do I die and respawn, or do I get revived? That is what they're focusing on now. That is a good thing. And that can be as buggy and can be in this buggy state as much as we don't enjoy it. But it's not that big of a deal to work on something like that now.
Okay, fair enough. But again, I mean, going back to the track record of ramming mechanics in before they're ready, I think that's a cause for concern. Do I want them to work on this? Absolutely. Do I think that it really could add things to the game? Sure. I'm just not I'm not sitting here going like, I can't wait, because I look at how they've rolled out other systems like this and I go, it's probably going to be really frustrating at first.
Yeah, I think just playing the game in general is frustrating. So I think to take, like, this is one thing that I really did take from when Joe Rogan was on the show, is the expectation of playing this thing as if it's a real game is just, the more I attempt to do it, the more idiotic I feel.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right? And I'm not trying to call you an idiot. I'm just saying the idea of trying to look at this thing and just trying to make it happen it's like a never-ending cycle of it's not gonna happen. It's just not gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
Until it's able to happen, and unfortunately they delayed all the things that could make it happen this year. So hopefully next year some of that stuff happens. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing too, with respect to them putting in like body dragging and down mechanics and stuff like that, or respawn mechanics. Yeah, I guess sure, you can put that in sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
But as far as the monetization that you guys were talking about too, I think they've mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, they've mentioned in the past that you'll be able to pay an exorbitant amount of UEC to take back one of your lives. And that's how I think.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, and that's how I think the monetization is going to happen. It's not going to be like, shell out some money and you can, take back one of your lives. I think it'll be more like, oh, it's a fuck ton of money, but guess what? You can buy money.
Yeah, of course.
So that's how I think it'll be. That's where the monetization will come in, I think.
We'll have to find that, because that is not confirmed in any way.
No.
But I don't think I can't put it past them. Like, it could happen.
Oh, it absolutely will.
It could happen.
Whether or not it's game breaking, I don't know. I guess ultimately that remains to be seen as for like how valuable keeping your rep is, how valuable, or how harsh the estate tax is when you passed on. So basically what I'm saying is I'm not I don't think that monetization will just ruin this system outright necessarily. I think it'll depend on some of the factors, and this is another thing that Jordan was constantly kind of just saying, just like wait and see. Don't get worked up about shit. Wait and see how it pans out, and that's
we can only wait.
That's
so
kind of
long,
my stat on. Yeah, fair enough, but that's my stance on that. As far as the UI, just as my last thing, I personally liked the UI, and like you guys said, about it being toggleable, I think that a lot of that information will probably be conditional. I liked how the reason I liked it is because they spread everything out from just being clumped around the center of your screen to take up just a little bit more in width, and I liked how it had depth to it too. I don't know if you noticed, but when they moved their head around, it kind of shifted in behind and stuff. I thought that was neat.
It's distracting as fuck.
Yeah, might be.
I mean, all I thought about was how, as a combat pilot, am I going to aim with all of these things moving and all over the screen?
I don't know. I guess let's look back. I don't know how Ultima Online was, but I know that especially early World of Warcraft, fuck man, your UI would get so busy sometimes, and you just learned to deal with it. So
UI was too old, where overlays and stuff didn't exist until fairly recently.
Yeah.
And I mean, only the most important things were on the screen in that game. So yeah.
But anyways, that's kind of my take on Death of a Spaceman and stuff. I think it's cool. I want them to proceed with it because that was one of the things that kind of brought me into the game, was the idea that there was no just quick respawn and you had to kind of really think things through and really try not to die, because that's some of the best times I've had in video games is when you're just like you point out all the time, heart pumping and just right into it, and then you get out of that situation and you're just like, oh, that was amazing, so I hope they proceed with it. I definitely have a wait and see attitude on it though, because they could ruin it. I think it's a very easy mechanic to ruin.
Yeah, I guess. I'm actually trying to find I'm looking in the post here to see if we can find the monetization possibility here.
No, this was way back. This was I want to say it was I'm
looking in the 2013 post.
I don't think it was in there. I think it was in more of a calling all devs video. It's a vague memory. It's possible that I'm fabricating it. Honestly, what I should probably do is check Darge's Star Citizen thing, where he goes into all the different stuff and what videos are in. But I'm pretty sure I remember one of the answers from one of the devs in calling all devs talking about how you may be able to buy one of your lives back with a fuck ton of UEC, but not confirmed.
We shall see.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a quote that I'm getting right here. There will also be opportunities to regain some lives or do a reset. Some of this could be through in-game missions, or it could just involve paying a lot of money to a specialist on a remote med planet that is doing stem cell research. What is that from? That's from that's in text of Death of a Spaceman.
Okay, it was right in there then.
I don't see that. I'll search for it so we can show it on screen. But yeah, Maso, I guess I'll let you go and we'll go to the next caller. But
you got lots.
Before we talk to him, I'll try and find this part.
Right.
I'll do a search. But thanks, man. I appreciate you coming on, and we'll see you next time, I guess.
Yep. Have a good one.
Be good, buddy. All right. So before we go to our next caller, I'll actually it's going to be Unmatched, but we will head here and we'll try and find it. This is the Death of a Spaceman post here. What stem cell research would probably be a good thing to try and find on this page, right? There we go. There it is. There will also be opportunities to regain some lives or do a reset. Some of this can be through in-game missions, or it can involve paying a lot of money to a specialist on a remote planet that is doing research. There it is. There's their monetization loop right there that they could take advantage of and use. And that's still in the post. It hasn't been removed. That is my only concern of this, is the second you monetize, or even monetize time, right? Because it goes both ways, where rich people will buy money. People who are rich in time will spend a lot of time and make a lot of money in game, and they'll never die, and death will mean nothing to them. And that is the one thing that I have concern about here, is that it totally contradicts this one tiny paragraph could possibly contradict the entire thing altogether. Thank you, Little Bit of Madness, for bringing that up to us, because that was very, very important to today's show. I appreciate it, man. Let's go ahead and bring on Unmatched now. Unmatched, welcome to the show. How you doing? He's muted. Unmatched, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
All right. Am I good?
I mean, are you good? I don't know. I don't know, man.
All right.
You got a lot of haters in the comments, man.
Not last week. Not for a while. But oh well. I'm here, and they have to deal with it or skip, right?
True.
Yeah. Before we start, did you see my cat though?
I did.
Way better than Lola, I got to say.
All right. You're banned.
All right. So let's talk about Death of a Spaceman. I really like the video they did this week about Death of a Spaceman. It's good because it brings value to death. We all know that. It brings value to death, but what's even better is that it brings value. It impacts the economy, and you have things. Hopefully, things will disappear from the game permanently, which will mean that things just don't just go down in price. They could reach some equilibrium where they're going out of the game as much as they're coming back into the game. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I like the part that I like the most is that he started out talking about Dark Souls, because I maybe he understands something about games have to be death has to mean something, and games have to have a challenge to it. So that's what I liked about
he's an old school game developer, right? Like,
he
developed games like excuse me, I swallowed some water down my lungs, but the excuse me, but yeah, like he was an old school game dev, and his games weren't easy.
Yeah. Hopefully we could he understands that. At least I agree with him when he says the game has to have death meaning, and hopefully I don't read too far into that, where he'll give certain difficulty to the game, because he's played Dark Souls, and he's mentioned Dark Souls more than once before too, and it always gets me excited when he does it. Yeah, he's mentioned it quite a bit, so I honestly like that. I hope that that's when you do die and the body stays there so too long, it does disappear, even though he wants persistence, because we can't just have pistol, like a million pistols come into the game if a million people just die and never recover their body. You can't.
Well, I mean, just on that note, when your body's recovered, I think you're going to be naked. I don't think you're not going to respawn the way we respawn now, with all your armor on that you had on before.
Yeah, and when the chat was talking about something that was pretty scary when it comes to monetization. Yeah. They were talking about mobile respawn drones. I was like, oh my god. Some guy came up with
stations. Cutlass Red.
Yeah. Well, that's different. I mean, like, imagine they can monetize a mobile respawn, drone. They can monetize that, and I was just like, oof,
I think they were memeing, man.
I don't know, but I don't know what we have no say in like what's CIGs or is willing to monetize now and what they're not, you know. But hopefully they don't go that far to where the mobile respawn drones are expensive or or they're only obtainable through real money or something like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I definitely agree with you when you said that to regain a life is and it will cost some ridiculous amount of money. That's when that's when real life money could come into the
Guess what spaceships cost? A ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah.
$300 million, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't put it past anybody.
Yeah, that's true. That's 100% true. The spaceships in game already are ridiculous amounts of money, and it will push a lot of people if they continue to run a store after launch. It will push a lot of people to go buy ships with real life money, you know. But other than that, I think that the HUD thing got me excited. It really did. I like what they're doing. It shows it's like high quality, you know, and they mentioned that each HUD might be different for each manufacturer. I really like that. I give that an A+. That was a well worth watching video, and both videos this week was well worth watching, you know.
They were good, yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of the good old days where you didn't have 1 week of salt and 1 week of happiness, you know. In the like 3-4 years ago, we used to have like every week was good, you know, like we did have this week.
Yeah, except
but
this is they had 3 weeks off. This is the big dump where Disco kind of blows his load and puts all the content in the beginning and then is left with nothing, and then we have some dev drawing something that is never going to be in the game on Star Citizen Live for the next 3 weeks, right? Like, I mean, that's like the more consistent thing is we don't have a lot being developed, at least in front of our eyes, in terms of like the near future. So I don't know how much we're really going to be seeing after this week, right? Like, he's kind of showed everything that's planned for 3.12. So like, now what? I guess refinery UIs towards the end, like closer to December.
Well, it is November. Isn't this when CitizenCon happens? They have to have something up their sleeve, right?
Yeah.
They have to have something. But yeah, the UIs were good. It made me really happy. Yeah, it is. It's 2020. But yeah, the UIs were good. I really liked it, and the death mechanics really good for the economy, giving meaning to death. I like it because it reminds me of the MMO that I've played the longest, and I regard better even than World of Warcraft. Old school RuneScape has the same kind of death mechanics where you die, you lose stuff, or you'll pay for it with coins. Yeah, so that's all I got to say, though.
All right, brother. Thanks for coming on. You. I appreciate it. Bye now, Unmatched. He let himself out. Tiz, welcome to the show. We're bringing on our next caller, Tiz. What's up, man?
Hey, man. Can you hear me fine?
I hear you great.
Okay, hi.
Hello.
So, yeah, long time.
What do you think? I mean, you go back to the early days of my stream, so the early days of Star Citizen. This is nothing new to us.
Well, I think I want to say something about calling the devs episode and maybe something general about space. This kind of show is exactly the thing I want to see anymore, because they don't really have any, no idea how to do it, and they're in development.
Hold on, Tiz.
So everything
hold on,
like...
buddy. Hold on. I can't really hear what you're saying because your mic actually is cutting out, like as if the voice activation is cutting you out. So you might want to get a little closer to it, or drop that voice activation a little bit.
Give me a sec.
No problem. Or hold push to talk down if you're on push to talk. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Can you hear a bit better now?
I can.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, basically, so I don't know what you heard before, so I'm gonna just say it again.
Okay.
With this episode, I think it's really something they shouldn't do anymore because it's not really an update, it's a non-update. They didn't update us about anything except that they're planning to do it the same or similarly, but they don't have a fixed timeline. They're nowhere in development. So I'd rather see any information or update with maybe also some whatever visuals or any concept or implementation when they're further down the line. So I'm not really sure why they put it on the web now. I mean,
I
really
think it's pretty
sense to
clear
me.
why. Well, okay, it may not make sense to you and I because we already knew, but I think 2013 minus 2020 is 7 years, right? So there's been 7 years of development, 7 years of people coming here. That Death of a Spaceman's kind of hidden pretty far down in the depths of the website. So having that update and doing it in a more easy format to comprehend of how it's going to work, video, people talking, easier to digest than have to read, is probably not a bad idea. That's my kind of thing on it. It was time to remind the community that yes, we're going to be doing this for people like us. It's also time to let the community know that may not have known that they were planning on doing it. So for me, I'm okay with it. But I do see where you're coming from. Is I think we were expecting to hear a change. And it was basically just reaffirming what the website was, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing, it's a technical note, and I don't want to be stingy or anything, but like at the end of the show, Jared mentioned, so I didn't have to do anything. They just keep talking, and I'm like, I want you to moderate. It was just
me too.
They were garbling away. There was no coherent thought between them, in my opinion. There's no I mean, you would have to watch this episode a couple of times to really understand what is coming and what is not. It wasn't structured at all. There were no visuals to underpin anything. So for me, that's not a good thing that he doesn't have to say anything.
I agree. I don't think you're being nitpicky at all. I agree with that 100%. What I would have loved to see is him go, slow down here for a second. What are the steps?
Yeah, and you could do do an easy graph. Yeah,
he tried to, but they
do an
just
easy graph,
went off
right?
again.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
They just went off, and it was like, what are the steps? Please, so when I see this happen, I go, okay, we're at step 1. When I start to see this happen, okay, we're getting closer. We're at step 2. That's kind of, if you're gonna explain game development to us, and maybe this is not something I still do not understand about it, possibly, is that it's not as linear. But I think when it comes to something like this in particular, it is linear. It is, we have the downs. We started with your actor status. You could die from more things. The environment affects you. Then you're going to go into a down state where people can heal you and revive you from that down state without this penalty that we're going to put in the future. Then we're going to have full persistence. So we're not going to remove your body anymore. And then we're going to start instituting penalties where you're revived, but you don't have your armor that you had on. You don't have your guns. You don't have your food. You don't have anything that you had before. You have to go and get it, right? I think I can figure out those steps, but it would have been nice if Jared moderated a little bit and helped. Because again, like I said before, this should be a really easy medium where you can learn exactly how this works because they explain it. You could use visuals, you could do whatever, but it needed moderation to get there. I agree with that. I don't think that's being nitpicky at all.
Okay. And then maybe to my points about the general concept of permadeath.
Okay.
I think it's important that we realize that it's not like a remedy for everything, right? Because you can't say death is going to matter with permadeath, but you don't have any clue how you're going to get out of your insurance shithole, where basically get back everything you lose, right?
Well, that's for
and
ships.
I think, yeah, sure, but I mean, they already said that insurance is coming for everything, and as we know, at the end of the day, you can buy anything with real money if they sell UEC, right? So I'm just not. I think it's more important to. I mean, the loss of your components and ships and your progression, not only with reputation with your character, but with items, is going to hurt you more in the end. I mean, that's what basically most often hurts you in every other MMO, right? So I think they can't just wipe your character and then make it easy to get your stuff back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I think Masocast said that the thing you didn't really connected with him about, that he said they needed to make it fun, the permadeath thing.
Yeah.
And there, I think I agree with him a bit that at the end it's going to be a time sink, right? But they can't overdo it. For example, right now, when you spawn at any major landing zone, right, and you spawn your hab, only like the few minutes it takes me to get to my space, my spaceship and my spaceport with the tram and with the walking and the elevators, I would like to smash my head in, right? Because yeah, whatever. So if you have to go to the hospital again, you have to find a doctor, the doctor has to heal you, everything is going to be so much
Convoluted.
to deal with. It's going to be, yeah, it's going to, like, you end up not playing the game anymore because you just have to put up so much time for every mechanic that allows you to play the actual content in the end, that it's not going to be fun. So I think maybe, I don't want to put any words in his mouth, but maybe that's what, or that was a part of what he was trying to convey.
I can understand that, but I think the whole point is that is the punishment, and that is like,
it should be a punishment. Yeah, sure.
But that is the part of the punishment, is that
so,
it's
just the same as the prison, right?
No, because when you are captured or you're killed, you automatically go to prison. But when you're killed in game, you should end up in that down state, and then you have the opportunity to be revived and avoid that punishment.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Sure.
But
yeah,
I get what you're saying. The game is so convoluted. There's so many things that are frustrating, so many things that are annoying, that probably need some adjustment. And they've gradually have been adjusting them a little bit. Like the space stations, you could tell I'm taking an elevator straight to things. I don't have to run as much anymore. Like, I think they get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
And also the QT travel times,
Yeah.
They were way worse before, and I think it's not like I'm saying they're not going to be able to balance it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that they need to.
So
maybe
I feel like this is a good opportunity, real quick, to just jump in. Mavel6 in Twitch chat says this. So what does a solo player do then? I think that's the risk of being a solo player, right? Is that you're kind of... I think Space and Star Citizen is meant to be a little bit of a Wild West. And running solo in the Wild West was dangerous, right? So
I totally agree.
It's an MMO, man.
I mean,
like I don't know what to tell you. Playing solo
absolutely.
is going to be hard in an MMO. Like, that's how it's supposed to be. Like, it's just
you can't cater to them too much.
No, but
the only thing that
you're a badass if you're a badass,
Yeah, sure. If you're the guy that is solo beating everybody, you're a fucking legend.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah, good for you. And I'm jealous because I'm never gonna.
Because it's not gonna happen for me. Exactly.
No,
No.
But I think that they just, I mean, it's just another facet of this. But they should also avoid that if death matters so much, right? That you're afraid to do something. You're afraid to take risks, because people will just end up like staying in the starting zone where it's easy, not venturing out. So it's a matter of balancing.
Yes,
And
but
that's
I
also
think,
a thing
oh man,
I
let me jump in on that point before we get past it, though. And I am a bit interrupty with you, so I apologize, Tiz. But I think
that's fine.
I think we can hit on that and then
It's a
come back to
discussion.
whatever point. Yeah, I think that's self-balancing. So here's how I look at it: is there are a lot of casual players in this game. They're all the active people now for the most part, buying spaceships, all these things. I imagine a good majority of those players are not going to be your hardcore PvPers. They're not going to be your people that are doing risky things, right? They have a place in this game. They deserve a place in this game. Their place is around Terra, around Microtech, right? Like these safe places. You all right? That came through the mic. I don't know if you knew that. Tiz. Are you there? All right, I'll mute you for a second so I can get this point out. I think he perma-died, guys. Yeah. I'll just get this point out without all the mic crackling stuff. Is the idea of those players having a place in the game, they'll be able to do all the things they want to do safely, but they will not have they will not get the most value out of the game. Okay? High sec, low sec, no sec, like that kind of thing, right? And then the players who are willing to take the risks will be able to reap the rewards if successful. So, yeah. So, it sounds like a lot of people aren't willing to take the risks. But what that does is that opens up more opportunity for the people who are. And then eventually people will hopefully grow some bravery and go out and try and take the risk. And, maybe that's not for them, but there will always be people that are willing to take it. So for me, this whole thing is self-balancing in terms of the people being scared to die. That is the whole point. So for me, this is what I'm looking for in games, and this does solidify this for me, hopefully, is that when I'm out doing risky things, I want my heart to pound because I want to know that I'm just not going to respawn with everything that I would have lost. So, all right, Tiz, I unmuted you, or he actually left. So I don't know what just happened there, but I guess it was kind of a decent time to end the call anyway. Unfortunately, that kind of stinks because I thought we had a bit more to chat about there. Yeah. He just messaged me. He said, having an internet issue. Okay. It's all good, man. It's all good. But yeah, I did want to kind of get that part out there as I thought it was pretty important that I think that the system should be somewhat self-balancing in that way. Yeah. So, all right, let's bring on our next caller, Rafi. Rafi, welcome to the show, man. Let me change your name here.
G'day, Mike.
Good day. How are you?
Good, mate. Good. Yeah, I wrote that comment early on in the show, and I just want to jump on just to clarify it. And to
repeat it in your own words, because maybe I think we all know I'm not very good at reading. So.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, when I first heard of Death of a Spaceman, I had a long talk with my brother, who's also invested as heavily as I am in this game, and I said, I really hope these guys have sat down with psychologists and talked about this, because there are people in the world who take these games extremely seriously. I mean, people who are dumping $70,000 on a game, there are people who take games seriously. And it's also a game for all ages. I mean, you and me are mature adults. We know it's a game, and we'll be pissed off, but we'll get over it, kind of thing. Maybe a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid won't. If they've made a name for themselves with all their friends, and maybe on a Reddit post somewhere or something, and then that character dies and goes away, they got to think about things like that. What's your thoughts? I mean, I'm just trying to be a realist here. I'm not trying to. I mean, I like the idea. Like you said, the greatest thing I remember about EverQuest is the first time I went to the Plane of Fear, and I nearly lost all my gear because we couldn't get back in the zone, and my heart was pounding. I was terrified I was going to lose everything that I'd spent a year earning. And we got in there and we got our gear back, and
you were
it
a kid,
was
right?
no, I was in my 20s. So
I mean, I was a kid when I was playing Ultima Online when it was punishing. And
it was. I played Ultima Online as well. Yeah, it was very punishing.
like, I don't know. I turned out okay. Like, I'm having a hard time with the... I don't want to sound insensitive, okay? But I have, I obviously have a wife who's bipolar and has been suicidal and all those things, right? But the idea of crawling around all those little spots and being responsible for that by trying to make engaging, enjoyable gameplay is, I just don't think it's... I don't think they should think about that as much as maybe you feel they should.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's just something I wish they would. I'm just hoping they've discussed with some psychologists and stuff. Points I want to bring out is, how you kind of nearly rage quit because of prison and stuff. Imagine someone who's invested thousands of hours in this game, lives on the game, they die out somewhere deep in space, and they're agonizing, and maybe it's from a game bug, and they're agonizing whether to permadeath, or is anyone actually going to come out and help me? If I ring support, will they actually fix the problem, or will they just let me die? I mean, I don't know, man. It's a big thing. A player's name. I mean, I wouldn't care. See, every other game we've played, even Ultima Online, it was extremely punishing, but you never lost your name.
Well, we don't know if we're gonna lose the name. Like,
well, it's inheritance.
It's kind of weird. Yeah, it's inheritance, but it is sort of weird where our characters currently have like call signs, but not first and last names. But NPCs have first and last names. So it's very easy to distinguish between an NPC and a player right now. Is the plan to do something different than that? Like, I just can't imagine SaltEMike's just going to disappear.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the thing. They're not talking about this, and this is, I think, why people are
it's a good point,
apprehensive about it. Because a player's name, when they get it, I mean, I'm not going to be anyone in the game. I'm just going to be some grunt hauling cargo somewhere probably, but there are going to be people who make names for themselves in this game. I've seen it in every game I've played, every single game. And that name can actually mean real world dollars in advertising and Twitch streaming and promotions and who knows what down the track. So, and not only that, it's your identity. You're losing your identity, and for some young minds, that's going to be too hard to handle, I think. And I mean, if I would hate to see anyone commit suicide over a game.
Of course not.
But it happens, mate. It happens, and that was my fear. Is that risk too much, or at least tell us, hey, you're not going to lose your name. Your name is like a call sign, and you inherit that. And I think that would take a lot of pressure off people, because I think that's what they think they're going to lose is their name.
That's a good question about the name. I think that is probably the point that I'd rather hit on, because for me, if a video game is going to cause that much harm, I don't think it's necessarily the fault, especially this specific mechanic. I don't think it's necessarily the video game's issue. I think it is a personal issue where that person probably needs to be seeing a psychologist rather than rather than the devs seeing psychologists and seeing how their mechanics affect players. But then you watch things like The Social Dilemma on Netflix, and you realize that maybe developers should be talking to psychologists and seeing how the things that they're developing are affecting humans in the world, right? So like,
Yep.
I don't want my game to get ruined, but I totally see where you're coming from. You know?
Another thing I was going to bring up too was like, if someone's getting PK'd and grief trying to recover their body and they die multiple times, and especially solo players,
streamers, like we're not.
Oh
this is
yeah, you're
going to
get
brutal.
the brunt of it.
Like you better just deal with the fact that you're not keeping your character. You know.
Yeah, but I mean, all streamers are adults, and I'm hoping that I'm not as concerned. Yeah, well, that can be subjective, can't it? But anyway, I'm more worried about the young kids. I'm more worried about like the 10 to 15-year-old kids who are making their way in life. From becoming a small child.
Parent those children.
No,
that's
subjective now too, isn't it? These days.
Yeah, parent those children. I'm not like that is as far as that part of this conversation will go. Please start parenting your children. It's insane. It's insane. Like my parents paid attention to what I played, how long I played it, told me to go outside. Made play dates with friends. Like. Sorry. And I think that there's a PEGI rating on this game that is... I'm not sure what it is, 13 plus? I'm trying to remember when I was in Germany what the rating of the game was. 16 plus? Like, it was up there because there was blood. And I remember we had to turn... The monitors could not face out. So there was... there's that there. So... There's ratings on these games. We all know young kids play GTA, all that stuff. So,
yep.
I think your concerns are super valid, but at the same time, I think there's other solutions to the problem.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify them so that chat knew what I was talking about as well. That was my concern right from the start. And as soon as I heard about death from a player, having played games like you have from Ultima Online all the way through, I have seen people who have had like psychotic episodes in the game, and it's scary to hear. And I remember it didn't happen because when he had ICQ in Ultima Online, that's the best we had. But I definitely saw it in EverQuest. People camping rare spawns for 45 hours without sleep, and having episodes, and it was scary.
Yeah.
And it happened to one of my friends in EverQuest, and it was a very scary time.
I mean, there's no doubt that MMOs and all these things are problematic as well. Like you do gain that connection with your character. You do gain that connection with that world, that universe that they build. Because you know what, the real world sometimes is not very good, and
now it's hard.
Yeah, it's pretty hard, right? So being in this other world makes it feel really good, right? So.
Yep.
Yeah, but
also, mate, bring up the HUD issue as well.
Yeah.
Just to change the subject.
Sure.
I thought what a good idea would be that HUDs have to come out as a very basic HUD, and then if you want the good specialized features, that's an add-on you would have to buy. Yeah, because I mean,
cool,
I fly helicopters, and if you have, the quality of your instruments definitely helps the quality of your flight.
Cool.
And your pre-planning and all that kind of stuff. So I thought to myself, when they were talking about HUDs and stuff, I thought, why don't they make that quite an expensive upgrade to get good quality HUDs, good quality navigation, and so that you don't have to plot every point. It remembers like a high quality GPS does. Points of interest and previous locations, previous flight paths and stuff like that, and you have to pay for that privilege, by working hard and earning UEC.
Yeah. Chat's saying monetize HUDs.
No.
I'd rather them monetize HUDs than monetize death. That's that's for me.
Yeah, that's what you brought up. Is I can see I mean, I can understand they have to keep the service costs money to run.
Yeah.
And they're gonna, unless it's a continuous stream of new players, which eventually will dry up.
Of course.
How are they going to finance these servers? They're going to have to do something.
Yeah.
So, but not that, because like you said, the rich people, and there are rich people who have invested in this game, it will mean nothing to them.
Nah.
And it's not fair on the rest of us who it will mean a lot to. So
exactly. You want to balance it as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, Rafi. Well, dude, I actually appreciate you coming on. It was pretty eye-opening.
Mate, been a pleasure.
As always, man. Be good, buddy.
Okay. Good stuff. Cheers, mate.
Late. All right, so now we have Stormhawk and Joy are left. There's 2 people that are in the green room. You guys, do me a favor in the future, just try and get in early. I did the call early on. I know a lot of people get inspired by what people say here and then want to respond to that. But yeah, the show can't be hours and hours and hours. So we're gonna do 2 more callers, Stormhawk and Joy, and then we'll call it a day. Stormhawk, welcome to the show, man. Appreciate it. Are you there, buddy?
I am, yes. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad.
Just putting your name up here. So yeah, what did you want to touch on today?
Okay, so myself watching the video kind of more, because I went and rewatched it again.
Okay.
One of the things that kind of stuck out in my head, which I don't know if anyone has brought up, was the mention of wear and tear.
They mentioned a player getting older, which was interesting too.
Well, I kind of more homed onto the equipment. I don't know whether it's either the ship, but the weapons, armor, whatever you're wearing.
Yeah.
Everything. Exactly.
They're going to apply that to everything.
And the thing that kind of I was thinking about is if either repairing or buying new equipment, obviously, if you're repairing, they're going to probably implement, you've got to get the right stuff to repair it. It's going to have a much bigger player-driven economy.
Yeah.
To enable that across not just one server. If it's all the servers combined, it's going to be global.
Sure.
So the introduction of that kind of is, I don't want to say unnerving, but they're going to have to do it right the first time. If they're kind of going into that, maybe kind of work in different things that need different stuff as it goes through.
Sure.
So that's kind of the first thing that kind of, as much as it's not about kind of the death, which was the big picture.
Yeah.
That was always kind of the biggest thing that kind of struck out to me that they kind of almost glossed over. Whether it's kind of been talked about before or not, I'm not too sure myself. But it was one kind of thing that kind of slipped under before they went into the bigger stuff, if you know what I mean.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's...
sorry?
No, sorry. I was just going to touch on it a little bit. I think it's interesting that you bring that part up, but it does play into things because wear and tear, it's a money sink. You're constantly going to be having to do that. But I think the real thing that you're going to be paying attention to, I feel like that'll always be like a secondhand thought on whatever you're doing, but the real thought process here is like, all right, I'm going out to Pyro. It's super dangerous, super risky.
Yeah.
How many people do I bring with me? What people do I bring with me? I think that's what they want to really create, is that,
of course, yeah.
It's that whole process of, this is what we're going to do. If we don't succeed, it's going to suck. So let me make sure we have all our I's dotted and all our T's crossed.
Yeah, and I love the thought of the fact that you've got to prepare with a team before going to do something like this. It's something that you don't really see in other
or
games.
Solo. I mean, Solo too, but
Solo as well. But as mentioned before, soloing it's a second thought. You've already got the stuff, you know where it is. Whereas with a team, with an org, it's going to be a very much hands up who's got this, hands up who can provide that. Let's pull together and basically see what we can do.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that I say once again, it's the merits of what you can achieve by doing something like this,
Sure.
but it's also whether the fact that it can be backed up by either them implementing something or I say the players kind of starting to run the economy a lot more successfully.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, what do you think? I guess, like, we've asked a few of this. What do you think about the cloning aspect and the fact that the community seems upset about it for some reason?
So, for myself personally, I see it as like others, a really good way of getting around lore-wise the whole "you've just died, let's respawn you." I mean, say for example, I think Eve is probably the biggest example where they've implemented clone like massively. Like the pilot of the ship is a clone, and you're still somewhere else. Actually, you're not even piloting the ship. If that's from the last time I can remember playing Eve.
Sure.
So it's not like it. It's
more
not
realistic
like it's
sci-fi.
Well, but the point is it's not new.
Yeah, not at all.
So the fact that people can get a bit upset is kind of you can kind of see the merits both sides, but it's a great way for a sci-fi at least to implement a gameplay into lore.
Yeah.
That's kind of my thoughts around it.
Sure.
The main kind of probably kind of devil's advocate on the other side is obviously when they spoke about when you come back as a clone, the defects, the things like that. Obviously, main concern is some people like to create their character and that be the character.
Yeah.
So that might be a bit of put off for some people. However, they could come back and say, well, we'll just open up a modification clinic. So, say, for example, you've had a big scar across the side of your face, pay a bit of in-game credits to have it kind of glossed over and reshaped. Because that you can do that in the future, can't you?
Sure.
So it's something that that could always be unbalanced. But I think the whole kind of aspect of your character slowly, I mean, for some people, that I'd love the thought of the fact that you might have to come out and go, oh yeah, actually, your eyes, we couldn't recover one of them, so eye patch for the rest of your days. That'd be great. But for some people who have either painstakingly created their character to how they just want it to be, or they kind of just want their default character to just be it, I can see it as kind of being a bit of a shy away.
Sure. I think, yeah, they should just be really, really open about that from this point forward somehow. Every time you're character creating or something like that. Or whenever it does eventually get implemented. I don't know. Because every time people buy the game, like let's say you just buy a standard package or something, there's so much information that you don't actually have of what the plans are at that point. And as you gradually find out about them, they might upset you or they might make you even more excited. And this is definitely one of those things, right? Which is the whole point of why they needed to talk about this again.
Oh, definitely. And it's great that they are talking about it and they're talking about it in the open to everyone who has backed them since the beginning. I mean, I know that they've always had this conception kind of in the back of the mind of, oh, what if we could do it? Now it's a matter of when we can do it. So it's changed the thought process, I think, for everyone, really. It's not a matter of, it's kind of in the think tank. It's now in the do tank.
Yeah, which is cool. It's exciting. I mean, the downstate thing is the thing that excites me the most. It's just dying and instantly respawning is just annoying. So the idea of like having your friends there to revive you, and, get back up. All right, thanks, man. Let's keep going. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of also brings on to they're also speaking about drugs and stuff. Sure. Because one thing that you've got to maybe consider is if someone gets shot down and you do revive them, what kind of state are they going to come back into? Because I mean, I wouldn't expect someone who's just been riddled full of bullets go down. You give them a stim pack to get back up, and those bullet holes are gone. How are they going to kind of get back into the fight from being revived or kind of from a down state? So probably the introduction of other medication to kind of either give them a temporary boost or kind of just at least get some arms going. If, like, say for example, you've lost an arm, or the arm's kind of not working. But yeah, it's something to think about, what happens next after being revived from a down state.
Yeah. I mean, I think they sort of implied that you would have some obvious penalties, and we'll see how bad they really are. And I mean, I mean, that's the thing where it's like you need to have a master's degree in Star Citizen's communication to know where this could go, right? Where, all right, you get downed, you had a broken arm, which you mentioned in the video, right? But now you have these ships like the Cutlass Red. Then there was like the Apollo, right? That was like the next level up in terms of what the medbay can do. You have a good medbay in the Carrack. Then you have right? So like, if you have those there, like, that is, all right, so once I come up from down, my arm's going to be broken. I'm not going to be able to shoot that well. But hey, the Carrack's right up there. We'll go get that patched up, and then we'll go back out.
This was going to be my next point. They never once mentioned ships. They only ever mentioned going to hospitals.
Yeah.
Like, what are all these ships? What are all these medical ships, med bays, everything like that? What are they going to be used for? I mean, I would maybe think of it as kind of the healing part.
I don't think they're going to act. Oh man, they might act as spawn points, because they all act as spawn points. That is something that they really did mention.
So it's going to be hard to kind of give an excuse for that if the term's correct. So at the moment they're used as spawn points. What happens if? I mean, is it going to be? Say for example, in stage 2, so instead of revived / cloned, you're able to get taken to.
You have to be dragged there.
It's hard to place it within their 3-step death process. If you're being dragged from a down state, then what's the point of? I mean, would you rather just revive them there so they can fight a bit, or drag them back to the ship? If they died in being cloned, then you don't have a cloning facility on the ship.
That's a good question. But I think that I think we would have endless speculation on that answer.
Oh, of course.
Right? And then that's problematic. So I wonder if, you make a big thread or something like that on Reddit, maybe they respond to something like that. Because that is really interesting, is how did the ships play into that? Because you would think that the hospital would do it best, but are you really going to take the risk of respawning in your Carrack if you're going to end up taking some of those lives away, kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. And it's also the fact of
really
how can they? It's a very tough one, and it's once again it's 2/5 years. So it's always something that needs to just kind of be of either cut into or just find out what's happening with it.
Yeah.
I mean, the final kind of out of the 3 devs, the permanent / next of kin, it also kind of does intrigue me. I don't know how far back kind of things we're talking about, but the whole when you play the single player game, after that you get your star citizenship for basically the rest of the multiplayer game. I don't know whether that's kind of in the talks now, but I swear it was brought up previously, where you've got the whole point of you can play the game not as a citizen and then earn your citizenry through the multiplayer.
Yep. But you have citizen if you finish Squadron.
Exactly. But the main fact is the whole point of the citizenry being passed down to the next of kin as well. Obviously, hopefully, that's something that's still going to be implemented if this next of kin's going to be put into it.
Yeah, maybe that's somewhere in the lore where, like, if you don't follow it that much, you wouldn't know. I don't know for sure, but my guess would be it's similar to, like, I don't know how it is. I assume you're from the UK based on your accent. But in the US, if you're born here and you have a child here, if you're an American citizen and you have a child, your child is an American citizen.
Yeah, no, of course, and say it's the same for the UK.
Yeah.
It was more of the fact in the game sort of thing. The permanent death, obviously, the next of kin. It's hopefully it'll pick up on the fact that you have still got the citizenry. I mean, the citizenry, we don't even know what that means yet. So
we might, but I never paid attention to it, to be honest. We
fair
might
enough.
actually know, but I maybe some of the lore nerds can write in the comments of the video or in Twitch chat and let us know. But I don't know. So I don't know if we're speculating on that or there's actually solid information on it. But yeah,
that's fair. Once again, it's just something else to consider.
True. Yeah, I mean, you bring up a lot of the fact that when I watched the episode, I thought they touched on everything. But you bring up a lot of points where they really opened up a lot of questions that are, I guess somewhat concerning with like what's going on with especially the beds in the ships.
Yeah, once again, it's stuff where they were a bit too excited to kind of drill down into some of the things that they actually stated. That it probably got over complicated.
I mean, I think that goes to where Tiz talked, where it was like, hey, maybe you should have moderated a little bit. Like, hey, what about the ships? That's something Jared could have touched on, but I think that only comes from somebody who plays the game super regularly, as we probably do. That would even like pop in your head, right? So somebody in the development may not even that might not be something that pops in their head initially, where they're so in that situation. It's different than our perspective on how the game's played.
Yeah, because I mean, once again, all the medical bays really now are still used for is just respawn points. I don't think they're even there to perform any sort of acts of healing. It's just a respawn bay. So it's all subject to change.
Yeah. Well, all right, Storm. I guess we'll let you go and we'll go to our final caller for today. But thank you. I mean, I think you opened up a lot of interesting thoughts.
Brilliant. Thank you for having me, mate.
Yeah, man. Later, bud.
Later.
All right, and our final caller of the day is Joy. Welcome, Joy. How are you? Are you there, Joy?
Mike?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Listen to me, Mike. I've been up for the last 48 straight hours. I've been waiting for the SaltEMike show this morning. I've got bombshell leaks this morning from my sources.
Okay. Count Cogpox, I see you're up there. I don't know what that guy's talking about, so we're not having any leaks here, that's for sure. So if you want to touch on anything, we don't need WikiLeaks here on the show. I apologize, Joy, but you made me nervous, so you had to go.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I hear you fine, man.
Yeah, I love the show. Love you're doing the answer the call. I like seeing what the opinions of everybody in the community is. I just had to get on here. This whole Death of the Spaceman thing had me pretty worked up this week. I don't know. I was ranting in chat earlier.
Let me stop you real quick because
go ahead.
Because Crown and Carbon Tails were actually in before you. I literally just grabbed him because I needed to fill the spot. So I apologize. So Count, I would say like be pretty quick, and then maybe I'll throw Crown in. Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
I mean, I just want to see something happen with some options with CIG on this Death of the Spaceman thing. I feel like, Chris gets these ideas in his head, and he really sticks to his guns on it. I don't know if people are afraid in the office to bring objections up to Chris on how the stuff should work. I think there should be weight in the decisions that go into these things and gravitas to dying and stuff in the game.
Sure.
But I'm one of these guys who's these OCD character creators who it takes me 4 hours to whoop up a character. And it's like every time you die, you have to go in and make some new character or something is just kills me. It's like, if there were some options for these kind of things where you could have prime clones, or I know they were talking about gene therapy or things like that worked in the game. I just think they need to consider some more options for the community while still having the weight of the death on the character, just not to some factor where it's annoying for the player.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the toughest balance. Is the whole point is to be annoying to the player.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I played a lot of these games.
Yeah.
You spoke about UO, EQ, things like that have similar functions, but it becomes a difference between gameplay, how meaningful it is to the gameplay and the impact of death, and then the tedium of redesigning your character or being annoyed like your eyes changed color or something. I don't know if Richard spoke off cue when he was talking there in that
He
Q&A.
seemed like he might have been, but certainly the arm thing was... The arm thing and cybernetic eye, like any body part being cybernetic when you wake up was a thing that has always been a part of the plan. So
and I would like to see that worked in there more.
Sure, and it comes down
with the
to
medical
this,
gameplay, something like that.
Is if you've now I think it was Rafi who mentioned like people spending like $70,000 or something crazy, right? If you've invested $70,000 and this is something that you're just finding out now about and you're getting upset. What? Right? So like I know there's players out there like you that exist. I might not be one of them. But being fully invested in this game and not knowing that this was something that can happen is problematic for those players because they shouldn't have been that invested in the first place. They should have found out about this. Now, I do think the onus is a bit on CIG because, it should have been more clear and open.
Yeah, but to me, it's like, it should have been informed to the players, but should it even be there, or does it really add anything to the mechanic? It's one thing to be like, people should know about this or complain, but in the long run, does, having to redesign your character, I think the loss of death right alone with what you're losing, faction, money, some kind of tax. I'm just saying there should be an option there for to regenerate a prime clone. Maybe you pay twice as much money to do that or something. Some kind of option for people, who are in this boat that are complaining about it. Also, are we going to get to keep our character name? Are we going to get to...
that thing, that I forgot who brought that up, but I think it was Rafi. Like, that's crazy, Well,
I know it's going to really tick off a lot of people. The character name alone is so important to so many people.
The name is more meaningful than the character.
Yeah, for sure. Body. There's no doubt that would drive me more nuts. And I think they will, just based on, I don't know, generating some database of names you can't use that's constantly growing seems kind of weird. That wouldn't happen. People in real life name their kids after them. I'm pretty sure they're going to have that implemented.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That name thing is the one that got me today, too.
Yeah, I think that's sticking, though, for sure, just based on the practicality of it.
Mm-hmm.
What you touched on earlier about the cybernetics, something there needs to happen with the cybernetics gameplay in terms of medical gameplay needs more depth. I think there should be, you should be tagged when you escape from prison with a chip. And if you have like a tier 2 bed or above, you can remove chips from people. Sure. Where bounty hunters can still track you. There needs to be, cybernetic installation, maybe on tier 3 beds or above. All that needs to be worked in. So I know some people were worked up about cybernetics. Maybe you can go to a med bay, have the cybernetic arm removed and some new arm grown. I don't know. There's gameplay to be made there. So I don't think people should be upset about that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And yeah, I kind of want to touch on the point that you made that like something should be more expensive. I don't know when you came into the show, but I think things being more expensive to give you an advantage over other players when it comes to the death mechanics and not losing your character will be abused and will be monetized and is problematic.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff it's just, it's one of those things, how do you appease all the groups of people? And often it comes to, well, they need ways to pull money out of the economy. The people who are really vested and cared more, throwing down a bunch more money.
Buy money, right? Like, it's not pulling money out of the economy.
there needs to be some limit on that. I think they're going to have to address that because the whole buying money thing creates a huge inflation problem.
Yeah.
in their economy. And even games where you can't buy money, like, EQ and WoW and all these old games, before, WoW had the Chronos thing, it's a huge problem for them to figure out how to pull money out of the game.
Yeah.
So a game where they're also bleeding money in, it's a big issue, especially since the entire game's progression is just money-based, not experience-based.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, all right, Count. Let me let you go so I can pull in Crown here. But yeah, I appreciate your call.
Yeah,
I'm
much
glad we got you
appreciated.
on, man. Yeah.
Yeah, hey, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
No problem, dude. Yeah, I don't know. That guy told me that I messed up and I'm in trouble now or something. It's like, okay. Yeah, but welcome, Crown. Oh, he said I blew it. Yeah. But I don't know. It's just like, I'm in Evocati. Like, he mentions leaks. It's an instant, like, you gotta go kind of thing. Sorry, man.
What's going on, Mike?
I'm good, dude. How are you?
Thanks for getting me, brother. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you waiting and everything. Like, I know how long you guys were waiting, obviously, but I'm looking at the thing.
We love the show, so it's worth the wait.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So what do you think about the Salt thing?
What I wanted to touch on was, like, there's no getting away from installing the Grim Reaper into this game, right? There has.
What do you mean?
That's
like death is a thing.
Yeah, that's just going to be a part of it, right? If you're going on these long expeditions, these big battles, and all that, they want to have a flip coin to that. As great as it can be, there's also going to be a really shitty time too.
Yeah.
So getting the Grim Reaper installed, I don't think we're going to be able to escape it. But if it does happen, how much mitigation are they going to allow the player to take? Right? Like, how much can I death proof myself as far as if I'm in a Cutlass Black, am I going to one day be able to install a tier 1 bed? Am I going to be able to pile up on cybernetics? Like, how
is
much
anybody
can I
going to fly Drake ships? You can't eject.
Exactly. You don't have an ejection seat. So, like, how much can they provide to me to say that, hey, man, these are your options of survival, because this is your option of death. It's a huge cliff that you fall off of.
Yeah.
Like, am I going to be able to hire, an AI medic that has a surgical background, and I crawl back to the ship and get into the med bay, and he installs a cybernetic on me, and I'm back into the fight. And then, actually just dying point blank, is that some sort of, memory upload to your ship? And like, what is the mitigation that they're going to provide? Like, that's my biggest concern, because there's nothing we can do right now to stop them from installing some sort of permadeath aspect.
Yeah.
That is a big success for Tarkov, and to the point where, like, you get hurt and you see how much damage you take, and if you don't have enough money in Tarkov, your player stays hurt until a time sink where he gets healthy over time, which could be hours.
Yeah. I think Tarkov does it.
They do it really well.
So well.
But
they also have that issue where, I don't want to say
it's perfect, but
no, but they also have that issue where players have gear fear. Casual players don't get into that game as much.
Yeah, I can't leave, dude. Listen, I hide in the first bush as soon as I hear a twig snap. I have gear fear in the game. Sure. But the second part is, like, for the PvPers, how much? I mean, will they gain an advantage because the cybernetic leg makes them faster? The cybernetic arm and hand makes them shoot faster.
I don't think so.
Or is this going to be cybernetic? You know what I'm saying? Like, how much of a ripple effect is this going to have on the game? To where
I think it's meant to be cosmetic, and it always has been. But I
would hope so. But at the same time, what has anything been 100% that they've said so far? I've been around since 2015.
That's long enough to know that if you passed through 2016 and survived out the other end, not to trust 100% anything.
Well, yeah, like, I came in a hot time for PvP, right? It was Jumptown Wars, it was Insanity. I can't imagine Death of a Spaceman being implemented during the Jumptown Wars, and, like, how chaotic that would have been. There would have been bodies everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? So that's my really big concern. I don't want to hold you. I know you're trying to end the show. Mitigation is my concern moving forward. Is like, if you're going to install this and we can't stop this snowball effect from you guys going in a room and drawing on a whiteboard and going crazy on how much you want to hurt a player, like, how much can I mitigate those things with modular ships? Because if I have a Cutlass Black and I only spent $100 on this game, now you're telling me I need a Cutlass Red. You know,
no,
like,
well, yeah, they're telling you that you
see what I'm
might,
saying?
yeah, sure, of course, you might want those things, but hopefully, they make it so it's fun and enjoyable and worth it to earn them in the game, right? But
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. And the mitigation, I would hope and pray that mitigation would be behind a level of reputation as well. Because that's something they mentioned in the video also, that some of your reputation will carry, but not all of it. So you earn that reputation to be able to get that sweet armor, shields, things like that to help keep you alive. But it's not something that you could just throw a credit card at, right? That needs to be super important, is that you got to play the game to be successful at the game.
Yeah.
You can't just swipe your credit card, man.
So I mean, we're never gonna escape the monetization, but I think, you know,
We
with
have
your
to.
voice,
Here's the I think we have to,
community,
dude.
unity. You know, unity is how you stop bullshit, right? That's how you stop the government from bullshitting you, and that's how you get companies to change their opinion. Is the community unifying? Say, look, man, I don't want you dying. You're out there dying, and a screen pops up on your HUD, and it says, for $5.99, I'll revive you right now.
That won't happen.
I'm just, you know, as a comical standpoint, that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't want that to happen. You don't want someone to run and log in and say, oh shit, let me buy this revive drone, and it'll just pop up in my inventory really quick for $1.99. Like, I mean, they already sold land with the little beacon things. Like, you know, where's the slippery slope? And that's a whole nother conversation. But I just wanted to get your opinion on mitigation and how a player can prepare for the Grim Reaper being installed, because it's coming.
Yeah.
You know, we're not going to get away from it. So.
Sure, and yeah, I mean, what I really think is that I hope it's tied to reputation more than it's tied to financial gain in the game or in the real world. I think it should be there. I think it should exist. I think you should have all the options in the world to mitigate death as much as possible. One of those options has to be skill, right? But on top of that, other options should be items, you know, features, like things like in the game, right? And that you can put on your ship or your character to help mitigate death. And the other thing would be your friends.
Too is,
you know,
is like, they should make these ideas for the solo player, because the group player is already taken care of. Right, if you're in a group, you're probably going to be around a ship. Well,
but
you're going to be in a group.
You can't design an MMO around solo players, dude. Like what you should be doing, in my opinion, at least, and is you should be creating a situation where that solo player has many opportunities to interact with other players, create friends, create relationships, and all sorts of things. Some players just want to play solo, right? Yeah, exactly. Some people want to be the Mandalorian. I get it. Their life should be as difficult as the Mandalorian's life is, you know, like, without
I'm not
spoilers.
saying like make the game for a single player. I'm just saying if you keep the single player in mind and it works for him, it'll work for the group, right? The group will get taken care of with the single player mechanic, like the ship being modular. Not saying I want that, but something to an effect where that ripple effect now is good for the group, because a guy can handle this on his own. In a group, that positive effect is magnified.
I disagree with that 100%. I disagree with that, because like the whole thing, I know you're saying you don't want ships modular, but if you're the solo player and now I'm able to do multiple things because we've paid attention to the solo player experience, now blow that up into the multiplayer experience, there's less of a reason to have it. And now at the same time, now it's magnified tenfold, because now this ship can do 12 different things, and this player can do another 12 different things, and now they stack, and now right. So that's why I think
end up like Warcraft, where you lose dependability, right? Everyone's a blacksmith, everyone's a crafter, everyone does everything. So I'm with you there. You know, I could walk back from that, you know, but I appreciate your time, brother. You know, I really hope they work on the mitigation stuff. That's really what I want to see, because that's really important, right? That's the gameplay aspect, is the mitigation of this new install. So
man,
I appreciate you, bro.
No, I appreciate you too, and I'm glad. I appreciate you waiting, and I'm glad I was able to get you in, Crown. That was fun.
All right, man. You have a good Sunday.
All right, you too, buddy. All right, guys, and that'll do it. I mean, we got a couple extra calls in than we were expecting. It opened my eyes quite a bit on the idea of the show didn't really cover everything. It did open and pose some questions that, honestly, it gives them an opportunity to touch on this subject again in the future. Maybe do a Q&A on the website with Molly, how they've done it on the forums and stuff. It just opens up for more conversation between the community and the developers. So I hope, out of everything that we get out of this show, I hope what happens is CIG takes this as an opportunity to engage with their community a bit, and I hope we get a little bit of a back and forth on this subject some more, because I don't think they touched on everything. I thought they did at the start of the show, and I know that there's some things missing, specifically your character's name. What happens with that upon permadeath? Yeah. How they're going to mitigate it. Crown's point here at the end. Rafi's stuff on how it affects players in the real world, right? There's a lot of things there that are really interesting. I'm not going to lie, I was not expecting this show to be this good. This many interesting discussions. I think this is the best Answer the Call I've ever had, by far. So thank you, everybody. Thank you to all the callers that called on the show. If you guys are new here, we do this show live on Twitch every Sunday starting at around 10 a.m. Eastern time. And yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment, like, anything like that below. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.